Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session, our second session looking at the Parliament of Bees by John Day. We've done 6 characters from within this not really a play thing. It doesn't have a plot, but it does have characters who do have ongoing interactions. And yes, it's a hive of bees. Stuff's going on, and various character studies. So we're going to take each character study one at a time and pull them apart and see what might be done with this further down the line. We're really not sure yet, but as I say, getting a sense of what's going on. Joining us for this session, reading Acolastes, Pharmacopolis, and Oberon today is Muted.
Hello, Lynsey Beauchamp, actor in Scotland.
Reading Chariolus, Servitor, and Prorex is...
That's me, Rachael, actor on the East Coast.
And reading Steward, Impotens, and Flora is...
Liza Graham, ain't Miss Bee Haven in London.
Oh, squeezing out more of those bee gags. Hadn't had that before. Excellent. Setting a bar for everyone. We do expect more puns later. Reading Senilis, Agricola, and Fairies is...
Hi, I'm Eric, and I have no idea what's going on, but then I rarely do.
Reading Parsimonius, Dicastes, and Pastoralis is...
Hi, I'm Greg, and I'm just waiting for this to be turned into a musical.
Yes, we've had cats. Now it's time for bees. And joining us, reading Arethusa, Fenerator, and Vintager is...
Hello, I'm Leo, and I live in Bristol.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I will be reading... I would say stage directions, but there are no stage directions. I will be reading the little introductory rhymes because I rather enjoyed them last time, so I'm not even going to hand them out. This time, character 7 without further ado. And this time we have Parsimonius, the gathering bee. The thrifty bee doth tauntingly deride the prodigal, inveighing against his pride. And the speakers are Parsimonius and Acolastes.
Sorry. Thou art my kinsman, yet had not thy mother been constant to thy father, and none other, I would have sworn some emperor had got thee.
Why, so he might, let not opinion sot thee.
Suppose all kingdoms in the world were balls, and stoodst with a racket twixt 4 walls, to toss at placitum, how wouldst thou play?
Why, as with balls, bandy 'em all away. They're gone play twice as many of the score.
Oh, a tennis court of kings could do no more. But faith, what dost thou think that I now think of thy this day's expenses?
How, in drink, dice, drabs, and music? Why, that it were brave.
No, that thou art a proud, vain, glorious knave. That teeming womb thy father left so full of golden issue, thou like a brainless gull hast viper-like eaten through. Oh, here's trim stuff, a good man's state in garters, rose and ruff.
How one man's state, that beggar's wretched poor that wears but one man's portion, I'll do more. Had I my will betwixt my knee and toe, I'd hang more pearl and diamonds than grow in both the Indies. Poor Fucus, musk my hose, match your old greasy codpiece.
Oh, let's not part foes. I'd have thee live in compass.
Fool I'll be, like Phoebus in the zodiac. I am he that would take Phaeton's fall, though I set fire on the whole world to be heaven's charioteer.
Oh, thou'st fired too much already. Parks and chases have no part left of them, save names of places. Thou burnt so much, there's not one tree to fell, to make a fire to warm thee by in hell.
I'll warm me by thy bones then.
Oh, say it hold. One fire till then. Thy lust will stir with cold. 'Tis voiced abroad too that thy lands are sold.
They are. What then?
Oh, and that the money went towards the great last proud entertainment.
It's a lie.
Oh, I thank you.
But suppose it true that I spent millions. What's all that to you? Had I, for every day in the year, a friend, for each hour in that year a mind to spend, I'd waste both Indies, but I'd feast 'em all.
And stir thyself still a true prodigal. What should thy stews have then?
Out, lazy drone, thou envious bees with stings, 'cause thine is gone. Plate, jewels, treasure, all shall fly.
Oh, they shall, and then some dunghill give the burial.
No, I'll turn pickled thief.
What's that?
A pitcate. If gold keep a house, a sea or land I'll hate. As to feed riot, I the land did brave. So scorning land, water shall be my grave. Meanwhile, the circle I've begun I'll run. Should the devil stand in the centre like the sun in his meridian, my ascent's divine. The vanity of all mankind is mine. In me all prodigals looseness fresh shall flow. Borrow and spend, ne'er look back what I owe. Wine, harlots, surfeits, rich embroidered clothes, strange fashions, all sins sensual. New coined oaths shall feed and fill me, I'll feast every sense. Naught shall become me ill, but innocence.
Farewell. I spy a wallet at thy back. Who spends all young, ere age comes, all shall lack.
And thus ends the first character of this session, that is. I feel we've been here before in a slightly different sort of combination, in the sense of someone being wasteful and someone not being so, but in a slightly different way. We have some area of bee-ness, of calling someone a lazy drone. I don't know how much bee-ness we're feeling about this one. I'm very much here for the bees. So, Liza.
Well, with the two things a beehive is often a metaphor for are a commonwealth and an economy. And there's been a lot of bees who talk about what they do with their stored up wealth, their pollen, their honey, their their metaphorical cash. And here we have we had a bee who gave everything to charity and had no family because the family might take some of the wealth he wanted to give to charity. We had a nouveau riche bee who wanted to spend everything on making themselves appear glorious. Now we've got a bee who wants to spend everything on pleasure and a bee who wants to hoard everything and not spend or give anything.
Yeah. How and of course bees play tennis, as we all know. I mean, it's a well-known, established fact that the bees are the world's wonderful tennis players.
Yeah, they can hold 6 rackets in their little feet.
Yeah. It's like every so often it does conjure up a really nice image that I really like, and really can engage with, and then I just want to animate it. Other thoughts in the room? How are we feeling about this Greg?
I don't know. It's just this was the first one I've really felt like it could be a comment on contemporary events of some sort. Just the sort of, it seemed much more pointed than the rest of them we've done. Yeah, it's a hard one. It also felt like very, very contemporary to today, but
yeah.
Spending millions.
Yes, I have to say, I suddenly was thinking about which bee was on procurement. Yeah. Other thoughts, Lynsey?
Yeah, I really enjoyed this. I like that the supposedly immoral character is actually full of great language and, has absolutely no shame about the lifestyle that he's chosen. I like I like an unrepenting baden myself personally, so that was good.
Yeah, we've got competing unrelenting Baddens in this as well, so it's interesting the subtle difference between this and the earlier Baddens and that we've had. Any more, Eric?
Well, what do you call it? Basically, the name Acolastes means like sort of basically what Lynsey's character describes, like living a life of like sort of without a moral compass, basically, sort of, yeah.
Yeah, talking to Parsimonius, so someone who is very much the opposite of that. It's this colliding of opposites, or colliding of an extreme character with effectively a sounding board. Earlier in the text, we've had some where basically there's someone just sitting there saying, yes, is there more? Yes, there is. Oh, good, you can do your long speech now, whereas this does feel more dynamic. Other thoughts? Okay, let's move on to now that we've got our eye in, as it were. We can see how we're feeling about what comes next. So, character number 8, Immorato, the passionate bee, which we have the two speakers, Chariolus and Arethusa. We've met Arethusa before. Earlier in a conversation about love and bees carving things into trees. But the opening verse to this is, "In this the poet spends some art to character a lover's heart, and for a sigh his love let fall, prepares a solemn funeral."
O Arethusa, cause of my soul's moving, nature, save thee, hath no work worth the loving. For when she fashioned thee, she summoned all the graces and the virtues cardinal. Nay, the whole swarm of bees came loaden home, each bringing thee a rich perfection, and laid them up with such art in the hive. Thy brain, as since that all thy beauties thrive, for being mixed at thy creation, they made thee fair, past art or imitation.
Is not your name Chariolus, son to our Mr. B?
What art that thus bluntly salutest me?
One that has to say somewhat to you from lovely Arethusa.
How doth she?
Well.
Ill-tutored be, but well? The word's too sparing for her, more than well. Nay, more than excellence and epitaph, too poor for Arethusa.
This is right, as the bee told me. Can she better well than with the gods?
The gods.
A passing bell proclaimed her death, and the whole swarm of bees mourned at her hearth in sable liveries. Long she lay sick, yet would not send till death knocked at life's gate to fetch away her breath. But just as he came in, "Go thou," quoth she, "seek out Chariolus, greet him from me, and pray him that he would no longer shroud his fair illustrate splendour in a cloud. For I am gone from the world's vanities unto the gods, a pleasing sacrifice. Yet there I'll wish him well and say, good youth, I bequeath nothing to him but my truth." And even as death arrested her, she cried, "Oh, my Chariolus!" So with a sigh, she died.
So with a sigh she died.
What mean you, sir? I have told him like a foolish messenger what I shall first repent.
Come, let us divide sorrow and tears, for with a sigh she died.
Nay, then she lives.
'Tis false, believe it not. I'll have that sigh drawn on a chariot, made of the bones of lovers who have cried, beaten their breasts, sighed for their loves, and died, covered with azure-colored velvet, where the sun of her affection shall shine clear, in careless manner about the canopy upon the blue in quaint embroidery. Arethusa and Chariolus shall stand as newly wedded, joined hand in hand. The chariot shall be drawn by milk-white swans, as whose comely necks, as straight as wands, instead of reins, there shall hang chains of pearls as precious as her faith was. The prime girl that shall attend this chariot shall be Truth, who in a robe composed of ruined youth shall follow weeping, hanging down the head, as who should say, my sweet companion's dead. Next shall the Graces march, clad in rich sables, with corresponding hoods, about which large tables of pearl and gold and rich embroidery shall hang sad mottos of my misery.
Oh no, my misery.
Next these shall go all Arethusa's virtues in a row, her wisdom first in plain habiliments, as not affecting gaudy ornaments. Next to them her chastity attired in white, whose chaste eye shall her epitaph indite, looking as if it meant to check desire and quell the ascension of the Paphian fire. Next to these her beauties, that immortal thing, decked in a robe that signifies the spring, the loveliest season of the quartered year. Last shall her virgin modesty appear, and that robe nor white nor red shall wear, but equally participating both, call it a maiden blush. And so the cloth shall be her hieroglyphic, on her eye shall sit Disretian, who when any spy would at that casement like a thief steal in, shall like her heart's true porter keep out sin. These shall be all chief mourners, and because this sigh killed Arethusa, here we'll pause and drop a tear, the tribute of her love. Next to this, because a sigh did kill my dove, a good conceit, I pray forget it not. At the four corners of this chariot, I'll have the four winds statued, which shall blow and sigh my sorrow out, above, below, into each quarter. Then, sir, on the top, over all these gaudy trim things, I'll set up my statue in jet, my posture this, catching at Arethusa, my lost bliss. For over me, by geometric pins, I'll have her hang betwixt two cherubims, as if they had snatched her up from me in earth, in heaven, to give her a more glorious birth. The word this, what should virtue do on earth? This I'll have done, and when 'tis finished, all that love come to my poor sigh's funeral. Swell gall, break heart, flow tears like a full tide, for with a sigh fair Arethusa died.
Rather than thus, your youthful flames should smother, forget her thought and entertain another.
Oh, never, never, with the turtle dove, a sigh shall bear my soul up to my love.
And thus closes this this particular little exchange. Yeah, it's always nice when people plan a lovely funeral. It's lots of good things. I'm liking again the image of the swarm of bees mourning at hers in sable, sable liveries. I want to see bees with liveries. I'm really living for that image. But then there's the sort of the logic of this and who's speaking and how it all fits together. And we had a little bit of the previous of this last time. And I am starting to wonder whether bees actually have any way of recognizing one another, and what the logic of this particular one, how it functions. Thoughts in the room about these characters here, and their emotionalizing, as it were, about this allegedly dead bee. Eric.
Well, knowing that one of them is actually Arethusa, that Chariolus is like weeping or sort of pretending to weep. I don't know. It's hard to tell from without like stage directions. It just kind of feels like the equivalent of someone like nowadays just sort of, I don't know, just, logging off social media, logging off everything sort of, and pretending to be dead because they can't handle like the abusive or someone they really want to avoid.
Yeah, it's yeah. I'm not sure of the motivations of any of it, and I'm just finding the game of just oh, she's dead. Oh, I will be very sad then with funeral stuff. Other thoughts in the room, Lynsey.
Yeah, I'm just sort of curious about the point of this scene because he obviously doesn't recognize her even though he loves her so much. Have I missed something? Has she come in disguise?
There are no indications of the disguise. We have met her earlier talking about love for somebody else, with somebody else about this particular sort of confirmation that they love each other, basically. But there does seem to be a whole problem with who recognizes who. So I think we can infer that Arethusa is in disguise from what's going on here.
And so the reason why she tells him that she's dead in the third person is to test him?
Yeah, it seems to be like that. We got a lot of testing people for their love in plays. We've had quite a few of them. I don't know. I could be going down entirely the wrong track here. Liza.
It does read like a test, but usually in a testing scenario, you get a reveal, if not in the same scene, then further down the line. And it rather confuses me that Arethusa, first of all, she has little bits that I read as asides, saying, I regret saying this. I shouldn't have said this.
I have told him like a foolish messenger. I shall first repent.
But she doesn't reveal. She doesn't. That you don't get the but stay. I mean, she does at one point say, "Nay, then she lives," and then he refuses to believe her because he was born to be a teenage goth, and. You're dating a goth when their first response to the news, the person you love is dead, is not, oh, that's terrible, what shall I do? But I'm going to plan the most awesome funeral in the world.
Yeah, I mean, and you're right that there are these moments that seem like asides that feel like they're working on a theatrical convention in something that is fundamentally literary, and it's really quirky, and I'd say it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere. It doesn't feel like it's trying to go anywhere. It feels like this is the bit you get, and then they move out of sight, and we can't hear them talking anymore.
I mean, there's a potential. I guess this is when she says at the beginning, "Right as the bee told me." I guess this is the person they were talking about. The two girl bees were talking about last scene, because. If it isn't, like if this is an awkward ex who's son to the master bee that she has to get rid of, then I can see faking your death to get out of an awkward date. I mean, that's something
we've all done it. We've all done it.
Yeah, the most extreme form of ghosting you can do. Rachael.
I was gonna say, maybe from the parts that we looked over yesterday, how some of these wind up having some continuation of story. What was the one where with the Il Triste that she said she was talking about becoming a poet, and the guy said you have to lie to be a good poet? Maybe it's something like that, or maybe there's a parallel scene that'll come up as we move on to make more sense of this. Or it's just a bad date, like Lynsey and Liza were saying.
Your cats definitely have opinions. They're definitely really keen on cutting in. Did I see Eric and then Liza?
I was just going to ask about the line, "For over me by geometric pins, I'll have her hang betwixt two cherubims." That just sounds like, just sort of, I'm gonna crucify her, but I don't know if that's literal or just like sort of a pin-up poster that is actually sort of something else. I don't know. It just seems a bit dubious.
I think it's probably a visual representation rather than literal, but I could be wrong there. You're right. It could be a really extreme way of, it's a bee, so you maybe want to display the wings. I'm going to keep coming back to bee logic if I can. Liza.
Well, first of all, yeah, I think since he talks about having his statue set up in jet, which is a very, very black form of fossilized wood, which you almost never get in pieces large enough to make an actual statue out of, but that's okay. It's extremely goth. It's associated with mourning. So he's talking about a visual representation of himself. So I think what he wants to do is have a statue of her hang above him as though she's being snatched away and he's like reaching for her. Which makes me think, if this reference is in the text, where did people see this? What kind of stage machinery was it that had someone hanging over someone else by some kind of pulley or geometric pins, whatever those are? So that's maybe a hint at performance practice of some kind. The other thing was just that, have we talked about the source plays for this?
We've not been talking about any sources at this stage. All we've been talking about is just how we react to it now without additional information.
Yeah, because I'm not going to talk at length, but just like one sentence. In one of the sources for this, the Il Triste character and the Arethusa character are the same person, which they're different people in this version, but that thing that was it Eric who said earlier about Il Triste being told by a poet that she has to lie if she's going to be a good poet, and then Arethusa lying in this scene, that might be a connection.
Any other thoughts before we move on and gather more data? Okay, let's look at character number 9. So this is Pharmacopolis, the quack-salving bee. This satyr is the character of an impostorous quacksalver who, to steal practice and to vent his drugs, would buy a patient. And the speakers are Senilis, Steward, and Pharmacopolis.
What's he?
The party.
How? What party, sir?
A most sweet rogue, an honest quack-salver that sues to be your household apothecary.
What sees he in my face that should buy his drugs and drenches? My cheek wears a colour as fresh as his, and my veins channels fuller of crimson blood than his. My joints are all trussed around and need no physical points. Read the whole alphabet of all my age. Among 60 letters shall not find one ache. My blood's not boiled with fevers, nor though old, is icicled with cramps or dropsy cold. I am healthful both in body and in wits, coughs, rheums, cataracts, gouts, apoplectic fits. The common sores of age on me ne'er ran. No Gallenist nor Paracelsian shall e'er read physic lecture out of me. Be no subject for anatomy.
They are two good artists, sir.
Well, that I know what the Creator did, they in part do. The true physician's a man-maker too. My kitchen is my doctor, and my garden my college. Master, chief assistant, warden, and apothecary when they give me pills. They work so gently. I'm not choked with pills. Ounce, drachma, dram. The mildest of all these is a far stronger grief than the disease.
Were it not for bills, physicians might go make mustard.
I know it. Nor bills, nor pills I'll take. I'll stand on sickness shore and see men tossed from one disease to another, at last quite lost. But on that sea of surfeits where they're drowned, I'll never I never hoisting sail. Am I ever sound?
Oh, ever sound? Were all our gallants so? Doctors and apothecaries might go so dowless for saffron bags, take leave of silk, and eat green chibbles and sour buttermilk. Would you know how all physic to confound? Why, 'tis done thus, keep but your gallants sound.
'Tis their own faults if they force springs or falls. Emptying wine glasses fill up urinals. Man was made sound at first. If he grows ill, 'tis not by course of nature, but free will. Distempers are not ours, there should be then. Were we ourselves no physic men to men, are both diseases cause and the disease. Thank fate I'm sound and free from both.
Steward, my 50 crowns, read.
Not I.
I'll give you then a glister.
Me, sir? Why?
I'll tell your master, sir, though you'll take none. Let me give your steward a purgation.
Why, I am well.
No, you are too hard bound, and you must cast me up the £50 I gave you in bribe powder.
Be patient.
You'll practice on me then.
If this be true, my health I see is bought and sold by you. A doctor buys me next whose mess of potions, striking me full of ulcers, oils, and lotions, bequeath me to a surgeon. Last of all, he gives me diet in an hospital. Then comes the scrivener, and he draws my will. The slaves for gold their masters sell and kill. Nay, so got, so keep it. For thy 50, take here 100. Will not now be thrifty. But of such artless empirics I'll beware, and learn both when to spend and when to spare.
Early modern medicine. It's a rule of thumb that basically if there's something wrong with you, give them an enema. Give you a blister, give you a suppository. That's going back to so many texts. Basically, it's an ongoing bit of there. I do like the way that turning on the steward there and so I'm perfectly well. No, I think I'll give you a. There's a nice turning of tables going on here about the way that a quacksalver is brought into a household and for the supposed patient. All sorts of nice little business. A much clearer sense of a scene here that's we've been here before, so this sort of fits within a long practice of this kind of game. Thoughts on the room? Anyone want to leap in? Eric.
Well, this whole scene just reminded me of the whole sort of George Peele trying to be a doctor thing that we had. One of those jests that was like, oh yeah, just collect all the random herbs in the garden, stuff them in, smash them in a mortar and pestle, and then just like sort of serve them up to the patient, and he'll be fine. Nothing can kill him.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many things about fake doctors that we've got in plays and in jest books and everywhere. Absolutely, it's all over everywhere. Liza.
Well, yeah. I mean, we get fake medicine a lot, but what we don't often get is, first of all, that Senilis has a concrete suggestion of what to do instead, as in he says his kitchen and his garden are his doctors, and he says so the implication is that just by eating a healthy diet you can keep yourself healthy and not have to pay £1 billion to stewards to put stuff up your butt. The other thing is, not only is the medicine fake, but the doctor has obtained admittance to the house by corrupt means, which is something we don't often see, that a doctor bribes their way in to see a sick person so they can prey on them. And we see the doctor doing some sort of classic, talking to the steward and saying, no, you're not well, you're too hard bound, as in constipated. I just need to. So
yes, you're too hard bound, i.e. give me some money.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's speaking metaphorically in that he needs to purge the guy of the money that he already gave him. But it's also there. Double meanings. I can't even talk anymore. Someone else talk.
Yeah. Other thoughts in the room. It is said that the game is much more straightforward on this one. You know, it's than the other one where we're sort of going, why are people doing things? Well, everyone's got quite a clear motivation here for what they're doing and why they're doing it, which is nice. It's, again, that can be added to our sort of list of general doctor scenes that can go into the running there and see if there's a good running for it there. Lynsey.
It's interesting. This one has a kind of double plus happy ending in that Senilis or Senilis not only gives the 50 quid or whatever it is back, but doubles it. And which sort of made me think there's probably some unscripted business between the steward and the quacksalver as well in terms of the money, or there could be.
Yeah, Eric, were you waving?
I was just going to say that the whole bit about a doctor buys me next and that, bequeath me to a surgeon and all that stuff, like sort of, it kind of can speak to the modern age, ironically, because, I mean, sort of modern / postmodern / post-structural. Anyway, I'll stop being nerd. And yeah, it just kind of has that element of, I don't know if this happens in the UK, but I know that in certain Mediterranean countries and possibly in the US, where they just sort of hand over an envelope so you can have like slightly more, premium treatment or something or whatever to the doctor as a patient. I mean, and it just kind of seems a bit, yeah.
At the moment, I wonder how well that would work. Actually, that's an interesting thought. I haven't thought of bribing my doctors. It might make my life so much easier. We will move on to the next character. Oh, Liza, you suddenly
one textual note on the next bit. I think the words mariner's character might have been intended to be a marginal note.
Sorry, say again.
I think the words mariner's character in Dicastes' first long speech might have been intended to be a marginal note.
I can check on that. I can't actually see that bit.
There's one line of speech
may indeed be, yes. Yes, that is one. I thought I got rid of those, but no. They sneak in. I removed quite a few of those. All right.
2 words on their own, isn't it? The mariner's character one. Yeah. Be aware of those, and there are a few other little party quirks to keep an eye out for as we go. This is an ongoing textual process of editing as we go. Character 10, Fenerator, or the usuring bee. Okay, that's not going to be problematic at all. Let's see where that goes. We will have Dicastes, Servitor, Fenerator, and Impotens in this, and the opening little versifying goes, in which the poet lineates forth that bounty feeds desert and worth, checks counterfeits, inveighs against bribes, and Fenerator's nest describes. Oh, what rings this bell so loud for?
Suitors, great bee, call for dispatch of business.
Oh, say what they be.
Racked fen bees, aged, lame, and such as gasp under late bondage of the cruel wasp.
I'll cheer them with hearty welcomes. In my chair seat the bee most in years, Let no one dare to send them sad hence, while our janitors observe them nobly. For the mariners are clocks of danger, that do ne'er stand still, but move from one onto another ill. Their dial's hand still points to the line of death, and though they have wind at will, they oft lose breath. Of all our bees that labour in the mead, I love them, for they earn the dearest bread that life can buy. When the elements make war to ruin all, they're saved by the good star. And for the galley slaves, oh, love that bee who suffers only for pure constancy. What suit is that?
A very sorry one.
What makes thee sorry?
Pale affliction, my hive is burned.
Oh, and why to me dost come?
To beg £100.
Oh, give him the sum.
Now the gods.
Nay, nail, sorry, nay, kneel. Nor be mistook, faces are speaking pictures, thine's a book, which if the proof be truly printed shows a page of close dissembling.
High heaven knows.
Oh nay, though thou beest one, yet the money's thine, which I bestow on charity, not her shrine. If thou cheat'st me, thou art cheated and hast got, being licorice, poison from my galley pot instead of honey. Thou art not my debtor. I'm ne'er the worse, nor thou, I fear, much better. Who's next?
A one-legged bee.
Oh, use him well.
Cannons defend me! Gunpowder of hell! Whom hast thou blown up here?
Dost know him, friend?
Yes, for the kingdom's pestilence, a fiend, a moth takes up all petticoats he meets, eats feather beds, bolsters, pillows, blankets, sheets, and with sail bills lays shirts and smocks abed, in linen close adultery, and instead of clothes strews lavender so strongly on 'em, the owners never more can smell upon 'em. This bee sucks honey from the blooms of sin. Beat ne'er so rank or foul, he crams it in. Most of the timber that his state repairs, he hews out of the bones of foundered players. They feed on poets' brains, he eats their breath.
Most strange conception. Life begot on death.
He's a male polecat, a mere heart-blood soaker. Mongst bees the hornet, but with men a broker.
Well charactered. What scathes has he done thee?
More than my legs lost. In 1 month ate 3 of my poor fry, besides my wife. This Jew, though he will eat no pork, eats bees, 'tis true.
He told me, when I asked him why he mourned, his hive, and all he could call his, was burned.
He's burned himself, perhaps, but that's no news, for he both keeps and is maintained by the stews. He buys their sins, and they pay him large rents for a long lane of lousy tenements, built up instead of mortar, straw, and stones, with poor pawn plaster and starved debtors' bones. He may be fired, his rotten hives are not to this autumn wood fair, alias kingdom's rot. I pawned my weapons to buy coarse brown bread to feed my fry and me. Being forfeited, twice so much money as he lent I gave to have mine arms again. The griping slave swore not to save my soul unless I could lay down my stump here, my poor leg of wood, and so hop home.
Unheard of villainy.
Is it true?
I dare not say it's a lie.
What sayest thou to this?
Nothing but crave justice against this hypocritical knave, this 3-pile velvet rascal, widow's decayer, the poor fry's beggarer and rich bee's betrayer.
Such a dictator, Albert.
Hello, everyone.
Where did you lose us?
I have marked in my script where I disappeared. Give it a moment for the internet connection to stabilize itself. I will.
Nothing but crave justice against this hypocritical knave, this three-pile velvet rascal, widow's decayer, the poor fry's beggarer, and rich bee's betrayer. Let him have Russian law for all his sins.
What's that?
100 blows on his bare shins.
Come home and take thine arms.
I'll have thy legs. Justice, great bee, 'tis a wronged cripple begs.
And thou shalt have it. I told thee goods ill got would as ill thrive. By my gift I alter not. That's yours. But cunning bee, you played the knave to crave not needing. This poor bee must have his request too, else justice loose her chair. Go take him in, and when his sins strapped bare, in ready payment give him 100 strokes.
Hew down his shanks as carpenters fell oaks.
Nor think me partial, for I offered thee 100 for 100.
Just his usury.
£100, or else 100 blows. Give him the gold, he shall release you those.
Take it and rot with it.
Follow thy curse. With wood blows might make all brokers thus disperse.
And we come to the end of that little exchange. And it started so well. It was like we were back at the beginning of the play. And it's like Court of Justice. The bees are gathering to discuss bee things. And I was getting all excited about all the bee stuff that was going on here. And their hives burnt down. No. And then, there's the one-legged bee. And then, as I sort of hinted at the beginning, the moment I saw the word usury, I went, okay, maybe this is going to be a bit anti-Semitic. I mean, we might be able to strip aside those explicit elements and just go for someone who is exploiting other people. But yeah, that's a problem. That's a bit of a problem.
Well, we don't know whether he's being called Jew as an insult or whether he actually is one. It was illegal to be religiously Jewish in England at this time, so Jews were kind of they didn't really know what Jews were. They were just these kind of usurious monsters that made a good villain for a play. Not excusing or condoning in any way the language. It's really gross and awful. And this guy, I mean, he's sort of he's a slumlord, right?
Mm.
I wonder if I guess it's too late to be a dig at Henslow.
Well, it could be. No, it could be. Because we don't know precisely when it was written originally. So we know it was printed in 1641. But John Day has definitely been involved in theatre for a long time. And early drafts of this maybe. So actually, you absolutely could be bang on the money. It could be that's the dig that's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, he both keeps and is maintained by the Stews. Henslow was notorious for owning brothels as well as theaters, and that bit about living off decayed players. Can't quite find it, but he
hews out the bones of foundered players. They feed on poets' brains. He eats their breath.
Yeah, so I wonder if this. Unless we know of someone else who did all the same things Henslow did, I don't know whether this might be a dig at him.
Mm. Yeah, no, I think it's a perfectly reasonable shout. Eric?
I was going to say, actually, like in terms of theatrical characters who have this kind of background, I can think of at least one. What do you call her name? Luker from the Three Ladies of London. She's got these kind of characteristics as well, which is kind of weird. And also there is usury in that. And what else was I going to say? Yeah, the Dicastes on this means like judge, in case you're wondering, in Greek. And yeah, and also I was wondering about the let him have Russian law for all his sins. It just kind of, it's probably going, is that like a mafia thing or what?
I don't know who said it. Oh well, it's Impotens. So yeah, that sounds like it's something more extreme. I don't know what Russian law is. That's an interesting one. I've genuinely no idea. Rachael.
No, I was just gonna say, this is kind of like the exact opposite of the first scene we had, the first like character that we had with Prorex, because it seems like he was a good king, and this seems like a sort of an eye for an eye type justice in the 100, pay £100. It's like in American law how you can't have a bail set at an outrageous amount that it can't be paid. It's kind of like all the things that countries make laws so that these things can't happen anymore.
Yeah, I think in this case, Dicastes is setting a punishment that this particular bee can pay. He's turned up here to a degree under false pretenses, of going, oh no, my poor hive has burnt down, and the other sort of goes, and well, yeah, it's a bit more complicated than that, and he's sort of trying to play the sympathy card. We have landlords who burn places down for the insurance money, and that's sort of what's going on here, though it's a little more complicated, I think, than that. And effectively, one of the victims of that situation is grassing on him, as it were. So yeah, made problematic by the way that language is used there. But I say a few cuts that might be more palatable. We shall see what we think about that later on.
I don't know. Impotens seems pretty sure that they'll break his legs by doing that, and that seems. I mean, hew down his shanks as carpenters fell oaks.
Yes, but he's the gilded, the injured party. That's he wants justice, so he's allowed. It's Dicastes who matters in this sense, in this scene. He's the one giving pucker judgment, whereas the other one's going, get him, hang him. Hanging's too good for him. Is what we sort of expect from Impotens here. Okay, that's cheered everyone up. So let's go on to character 11, Oberon in Progressu, or Oberon in Progress. And we have speakers. We have 4 speakers again: Oberon, Agricola, Pastoralis, and Flora. It could be Agricola, of course. Oberon his royal progress makes to Hybla, where he gives and takes presents and privileges, bees of worth he crowns with offices.
The session's full to avoid the heat. In this cool shade, each take his seat.
The winged tenants of these lawns, decked with blooms and downy pawns, like subjects faithful, just and true, bring Oberon tribute.
What are you?
A poor bee that by Oberon's will first invented how to till the barren earth, and in it throw seeds that die before they grow, and being well read in nature's book, devised plough, sickle, scythe, and hook, to weed boot thistles and rank brakes from the good corn. His voyage makes from Thessaly my native shrine, and to great Oberon all divine submit myself. This wreath of wheat, ripened by Apollo's heat, my bosom filled with ears of corn, to thee that wert before time born, I freely offer.
May thy field, loaden with bounty, profit yield. May the root prosper, and each ear, like a teeming female, bear April deluge and May frosts. Lightnings and mildews fly thy costs, as thou in service true shalt be to Oberon's crown and royalty. True bailiff of our husbandry, keep thy place still. The next.
A bee that's keeper of King Oberon's groves, sheep reeve of his flocks and doves, his goats, his kids, his ewes and lambs, steers and heifers, sires and dams. To express homage at the full, greets Oberon with this fleece of wool.
May thy ewes in yeaning thrive, stock and increase, stand and survive. May the wood fare, cough and rot, die or living, hurt thee not. May the wolf and wily fox live exiled from thy herds and flocks. Last not least, prosper thy grove, and live thou blessed in Oberon's love, as thou in service true shalt be to us and our high royalty. The next.
High steward of thy vines, taster of both grapes and wines, in these ripe clusters that present full bounty, on his knees low bent, pays Oberon homage, and in this bowl brimmed with grape blood, tender toll of all thy vintage.
May thy grapes thrive in autumn and the roots survive in churlish winter. May thy fence be proof against wild boars' violence, as thou in service true shalt be to us and our high royalty. A female bee, thy character?
Flora, Oberon's gardener, hussif both of herbs and flowers, to strew thy shrine and trim thy bowers with violets, roses, eglantine, daffodowne, and blue columbine, hath forth the bosom of the spring plucked this nosegay, which I bring from Eleusis, mine own shrine, to thee, a monarch all divine, and as true impost of my grove, present it to great Oberon's love.
Honey dews refresh thy meads, cowslips spring with golden heads, July flowers and carnations wear leaves double streaked with maiden hair. May thy lilies taller grow, thy violets fuller sweetness owe, and last of all may Phoebus love to kiss thee and frequent thy grove, as thou in service true shalt be unto our crown and royalty. Keep all your places, well we know your loves, and will reward 'em too.
In sign that we thy words believe, as well the birthday as the eve, we will keep holy. Our winged swains neither for pleasure nor for gains shall dare profane it, so lead away to solemnize this holy day.
You see, this is the kind of bee content that we were here for, wasn't it? You know, this is what when we saw Parliament of Bees, we were expecting people, this sort of royal beneficence of Oberon here to all the bees, and that's the kind of bee action I want. I don't know, Lynsey, did you feel particularly regal there? Did you?
Oh, so regal, so regal. A proper queen bee, sorry. Any thoughts? In a sense, this runs quite nicely into the final character, but I just thoughts on this. These various bounties that are offered here, and any thoughts from the room? Liza.
We've gone into tetrameter.
Yes, there has been a change.
First time in the play, I think.
Yeah, it's been iambic, hasn't it?
Mostly.
Yeah.
Yeah, Oberon's turning up and everybody changes the verse form. That's obviously what that's what you do. That's how you speak to royalty. Obviously, that's what the play's telling us. Leo.
I think Tetrameter was used more for magical characters. I can't mention.
Yeah, I know exactly what you want to mention, but you're not going to, are you?
No.
Yeah. I don't know how exclusively that is as a general trend. But yeah, maybe there is more of a trippy quality to what goes on with this kind of character. I'm going to lean across to a book while I have a little think about that. Other thoughts on things that we other Oberon-y and bees. What about the bees? How did you feel about the bees here? Were they the bee's knees?
It's kind of very, sorry, I'm jumping in without
Yeah,
raising
go for it.
but no, it's very interesting given how much in the last few years we're all aware now of how reliant we are on the bees for just about everything. So it's just very interesting, this section where they talk about, this is me and this is what I do for your world. It's kind of lovely, really.
The bees give us so much. Yeah. So I'm just checking, and Oberon speaks in prose. So that's sorry. I'm checking James IV, the play that we'll all automatically think of when we think of Oberon. So he has many conversations with Scotsmen. So that's what we automatically all think of. No, and then how many stresses to that line? Looks like he's speaking in blank verse. So it looks like Oberon's can do it all. Looks like he can do all the verse.
I wonder though. I mean, I think that even in the plays that we are allowed to reference, there may be a thing with supernatural characters and tetrameter. Leo may have something there.
We will hunt for more. Eric, then Rachael.
What caught me off guard was the it rhymes, and then no, last line does not rhyme, which is quite okay, wake up, people, we have things happening. Sort of like subjects faithful, just and true, bring Oberon tribute. It doesn't really, it does not roll off the tongue.
It's a shared line. Subjects faithful, just and true, bring Oberon tribute. What are you?
Yeah, but it's just kind of interesting to sort of ponder that.
Yeah, that you need to be on your game, and see where that how that flows. Rachael, I think.
No, just my hypothesis on this is maybe it's something like scale tonics, even though that's so much shorter, that you wind up being like, if you choose to emphasize the last word in the line, you're hitting a beat more often, or maybe it's going for like an odd numbered beat that just keeps you on your toes in that way. Or I don't know, something maybe asking for a faster, a slightly quicker tempo, or something to do with the rhythmic of it, or just based on, I don't know, something else, maybe taking 14ers, cutting them down, and then redoing it for a new style.
Shorter lines do make the pace feel faster, or perhaps they mean or perhaps they give you a little more space to speak the line. That you can speak it a little more like poetry than like normal speech. I mean, I guess it would be fun to get in a room with some of this. But yeah, I do like the rhythm across the shared lines, and how it holds up and what it tells you about the pace of that dialogue. Yeah, it's all very lyrical. And we have the farmer bee and the shepherd bee and the wine grower bee and Flora, who's a flowery sort of bee, and who's marked out as, if Oberon marks her out as a female bee, perhaps that implies that all the other bees are male gendered. Who knows?
Yeah. Yes, it's made it explicit at that point. So yes, that would suggest the rest of the scene functions. Well, we've got one more to go, and it's like last minute. Prorex, the master bee, and beware if you see any misters, it's master, not mister. The master bee is gonna join us. So you might say this is actually continuous action from the previous. Might not be. It might be a totally different session with Oberon. But character 12, Rex Sicilium, the high bench bar. We've got lots of speakers. I'm not going to read them out, but we've got the Master Bee, Prorex, and Oberon, Fairies, all sorts, many of whom don't actually speak. Oberon, in his star chamber sits, sends out subpoenas, high court writs, to the Master Bee, degradeth some, frees others, all share legal doom.
Now summon in our master bee with all his swarm, and tell him we command our homage.
He is come. Room for great Prorex there? Make room.
What means this slackness?
Royal sire, my care made me a loiterer to bring in these transgressing bees, who by deceits and fallacies, clothed with a smooth and fair intent, have wronged me in my government.
The manner how?
These wicked three, the wasp, the drone, and humble bee, conspired like traitors. First the wasp sought in his covetous paw to grasp all he could finger, made the sea not only his monopoly, but with his winged swarms scoured the plains, robbed and slew our weary swains coming from work. The humble bee, a fly as tyrannous as he, by a strange yet legal stealth, non-suited bees of all their wealth. The drone, a bee more merciless, our needy commons so suppressed by hoarding up and poisoning the earth. Once in 3 years he'd make a dearth, a needless one, transporting more to strangers than would feed our poor. At quarter day, if any lacks his rent, he sees both honey and wax, throwing him out to beg and starve, for which,
as they yourself deserve due punishment, for servants' sins, we commit their masters. Justice wins more honor and shines more complete in virtue by suppressing great than hanging poor ones. Yet because you have been zealous in our laws, your fault we pardon. For delinquents we have legal punishments. Vesper that pillaged sea and land, engrossing all into his hand, from all we banish, dead or alive. Never shall Vesper come in hive, but like a pirate and a thief, steal and pilfer his relief. Thou hast fed riots, lusts, and rapes, and drawn vice in such horrid shapes as very horseflies, had they known 'em, for credit's cause, yet would not own 'em. Thou'st made thy hive a brothel, acted sin 'gainst nature and the royalty of kin, so base as but thyself none could invent. They are all thine own, and thou their president, for which, as thou thy fame hast lost, So be thine arms and titles crossed from forth the roll of heraldry that blazons out true gentry. Live ever exiled. Fucus, you that engrossed our honey dew, brought wax and honey up by the grate, transporting it as slaves do wheat. Your hive, with honey hid in trees and hollow banks, our poor lame bees shall share. And even as Vesper, so unpatronized, live banished too. Last, you that by your surly hum would needs usurp a praetor's room, your chamlet gown, your purple hood, and stately phrase scarce understood or known from this our master bee, made the ignorant think that you were he, and pay you reverence. For your hate to the poor and envy to our state, we here degrade and let you fall to the dunghill, your original. From nettles, hemlocks, docks, and weeds, on which your peasant lineage feeds, suck your diet. To be short, ne'er see our face, nor haunt our court.
And whither must these flies be sent?
To everlasting banishment. Underneath two hanging rocks where babbling echo sits and mocks poor travellers, there lies a grove with whom the suns, so out of love, he never smiles on't. Pale despair calls it his monarchal chair. Fruit half ripe, hang rivelled and shrunk on broken arms torn from the trunk. The Moorish pools stand empty, left by water, stolen by cunning theft to hollow banks, driven out by snakes, adders, and newts that man these lakes. The mossy weeds, half sheltered, served as beds for vermin hunger-starved. The woods are yew trees, rent and broke by whirlwinds. Here and there an oak, half cleft with thunder. To this grove we banish them.
Mercy, Jove.
Some mercy, Jove. Mercy, mercy.
You should have cried so in your youth, when Kronos and his daughter Truth sojourned amongst you, when you spent whole years in riotous merriment, thrusting poor bees out of their hives, seizing both honey, wax, and lives. You should have called for mercy when you impaled common blossoms, when instead of giving poor bees food, you eat their flesh and drink their blood.
Be this our warning. Be this our warning.
Oh, 'tis too late. Fairies, thrust them to their fate. Now, Prorex, our chief master bee and viceroy, thus we lesson thee. Thy preterite errors we forgive, provided you hereafter live in compass. Take again your crown, but make your subjects so your own as you for them may answer.
Sir, for this high favor you confer, true loyalty upon my knee, I promise both for them and me.
Rise in our love then, and that you what you have promised may pursue, chaste Latria I bestow on you in marriage. She'll teach you how yourself, fair truth and time, be a watch and constant chime to all your actions. Now adieu, Prorex shall again renew his potent reign. The massy world which in glittering orbs is hurled about the poles, be lord of. We only reserve our royalty. Field music, Oberon must away. For us, our gentle fairies stay in the mountains and the rocks. We'll hunt the grey and little fox, who destroy our lambs that feed and spoil the nests where turtles breed. If Vesper, Fucus, or proud Error fright thy bees and be a terror to thy groves, 'tis Oberon's will, as outlaws you them seize and kill. Apollo and the Muses dance. Art has banished ignorance and chased all flies of rape and stealth from forth our winged commonwealth.
And the text closes. So it's like we've returned full circle to the beginning, very beginning, when Prorex, the Master Bee, was sort of trying to put through Parliament legislation against hornets and wasps. And then Oberon turns up and says, well, you haven't done a very good job, have you? Well, I'll sort it out, shall I? And you're bad, and you're bad, and you're bad, and you're bad, and I'll forgive you. And I do feel like Prorex has tried. I feel Oberon's been a bit unfair. I think he's a scapegoat for Oberon.
Well, no, I mean, if crime has flourished in Prorex's Commonwealth, he does bear some responsibility.
Well, you know, he was doing something at the beginning. He was definitely, there was legislation going through. What was Oberon doing? If Oberon's the head of state, I'm being deliberately obtuse. Lynsey, then Rachael.
Yeah, really just continuing Liza's point that Oberon makes it very clear that Prorex must bear responsibility for any crimes committed by anyone under his regime. And I think that I found that quite interesting. I thought, oh, that is quite interesting. The ruling class are responsible for the crimes that the lower orders commit. I was wondering where this would be fitting in politically with what was going on at the time. I'm not sure if that's stretching it too far, but I did hear that. I did note that.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting in terms of its timing as well. It gets published in 1641. Things are not going to go well for an authoritarian like Oberon in about a year's time. Things are going to start kicking off pretty bad. I mean, they're not great now, but they're getting increasingly worse.
Yeah, riot. Yeah. Absolutely.
But of course, this has its roots in a much earlier text, so we don't know how early that goes. But that's an interesting sort of, in terms of when it's published, there's something quite interesting going on there. Rachael, I think you've been waving a little while.
I wonder if whether Oberon is like a king and Prorex is really just something like a lord, or if Oberon being the only sort of non-bee besides like Pastoralis or the vintner or Flora, that Oberon is like a god. And the first little character thing he shows up in is he starts bringing up ewes, and I wonder if he's supposed to be some sort of analogy for like God, because he talks about all these little goats and lambs and things like that, and saying, I think he says something about Prorex's flock. I don't know, maybe he's like the empire and then Prorex is just a small like vassal lord, or maybe he's something for religion.
Eric.
Well, what I was going to say was what was the point I was going to make? Just it's interesting to think of this as a sort of revolution in the making kind of thing, and also Oberon, it just reminded me a bit of Fortune from John Marston, where we had, I think it was the Fawn, I can't remember, not the Fawn, the one after the Fawn, which was the the Fawn, probably, I'm guessing, I don't know, or what you will, possibly. sorry, this is my thought process, just like all over the place. And like sort of trying to enjoy life, so not really taking any responsibility for the rest of what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, what's Oberon doing all day apart from, just loading beneficence on people, and
It's a busy job. You've got no idea how busy Oberon is. All this munificence just doesn't come out of nowhere.
Yeah, I've Prorex, or Cromwell, as I'm starting to call him, might have other opinions.
I've got to go out riding. I've got to go hunting. I've got to have my portrait painted.
Yeah, you're going to start talking about the divine rights of fairies next, aren't you?
You took the words out of my mouth.
I mean, I don't know how far you can push that political element to it, but I have to say that element lands for me quite nicely. And it is interesting, that sometimes this text does actually connect with itself. But I kind of wish we saw more from a connection with the wasp, the drone, and the humble bee. Are they supposed to be any of the characters that we met earlier? I don't know that they really match them. So. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how interconnected this is, or whether the sort of central part of this is actually essentially separate things. Liza.
That seems to me to be, I mean, if we're talking about performability, it seems to me to be a weakness or something that would have to be addressed or amended somehow with this text, that very little of it seems joined up. I mean, Prorex is in a lot of different scenes playing a pretty consistent character, but some of the others, there are various bits of story that start and don't really resolve.
Yes, there's a lot of that. Lynsey.
Yeah, sorry, I'm just, you might have talked about this and I missed it, but Prorex.
Oh, I hadn't thought of that. No, yeah, that's a very good point, actually. He's very pro the king.
He isn't, maybe.
I don't know if that's how it actually unpacks, but
maybe for the king, as in the king's representative.
Yeah, that fits logically. Yeah. So yeah, we have these disparate elements that we've almost got a love plot, but not quite. We've almost got a political plot, but not quite. We've got some other people doing some other stuff. I mean, it's like the scene with the judgments problematized with the usury element, but does feel connected to this. It does feel like we've actually had a few scenes that roll into each other, that we have some judicial process, then we see a king, then we see a king intersecting with his state. Leo.
I mean, I'm not sure, but if these are sort of quite short and fairly unconnected characters, then could there be a chance that lots of this stuff might already have been known? I mean, Oberon was clearly a known character, and others might have, or at least the fact that some of the names as well that we've talked about have are quite, you can sort of work out their positions or their archetypes, and maybe this was more like a review performance than a sort of, I mean, I'm not sure, but I was wondering what like, who's the audience? It's quite hard to tell.
Yeah, I mean, that's the problem with this text, is that odds on it is not a performance text. We give it that sort of a starting point because we like any text to be performable, because that's what we do. But it doesn't feel that that's what it's doing. I think you're right that whoever's reading this, or putatively watching a performance, it does feel like the text is expecting the audience to know what these characters are going to be the moment they hear their names. And with a lot of the names, with some of the people in the room are going, "Ah, that name means that," or "Oh, that's a bit like that," and pick up on it straight away. But certainly for a modern audience, you do feel a gloss is required. That you need a projection at the back with translations of what everybody's name means and things just to give them details. Liza.
Well, I mean, you're probably... I don't know how performable this text was. Maybe I know I said this yesterday, but it reads like something that might be performed when a royal progress visits town or something. What I did manage to find out is that a lot of this play is pilfered quite closely from two plays called The Wonder of a Kingdom and the other called The Noble Spanish Soldier. And I think either one or both are by Decker, possibly.
Yeah, there's yes, Decker
others.
with potentially others for some of them. It's one of those questionable areas, but yes, Decker generally.
And those are performance texts, right?
Mm.
So even, I don't know whether they perhaps involve people rather than bees. I haven't read them, so can't speculate, but...
off the top of my head, I don't think bees are involved.
Okay. I mean, that's interesting, because we had, earlier we had a one-legged bee, and a one-legged bee has lost more legs than a one-legged person has.
That's a lot of legs.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if so much of this play is taken quite closely from those plays, the question in my mind is why? Like, why put together this bee fest? Was it cobbled together in haste for a sort of scratch performance, or I wonder.
Yeah, and what this relationship has with other works by Day that we'll get to later on. In a sense, we're doing this all backwards, just simply because I wanted to do something with bees. There doesn't always have to be a reason for doing these things, but yes, because we're not going to probably get to either of those texts, Wonder of a Kingdom and Spanish Soldier, anytime soon. We might do, who knows, but odds on it's going to be a while. So yeah. Because there's plenty of performance options for bits of it. That bits of it do feel like the kind of thing you could slip into a mask or into some kind of progress or some kind of entertainment. But the overall text doesn't really. I find it quite difficult to think of this as a totality. To function in that way. Okay, I'm going to go around the room for final thoughts to stretch our ideas of what we might do with this text, either in whole or in part. What does one do with a text like this? What medium? Because we don't have to think of this as a theatrical thing. That we might want to throw in and see how it goes. Greg, do you have any final thoughts? You're allowed to not have final thoughts, by the way. It's not mandatory.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think going back to, I can't remember if we did say this yesterday, but it does feel a little bit like the pageants we've worked on over the last few months in some ways, and I can see it being. What's the name of the company? Punch Drunk or something, where you sort of happen upon these things. But
I really like that.
but I'd feel punch drunk by the end of the experience too. It made more sense than it did when I was working on the text in the initial stages, very much. So yeah, it's some lovely scenes, and I really enjoyed doing Dicastes, especially him tonight.
Yeah, I like that, the idea of a sort of immersive show where you just wander in and catch these things happening, and they're not explained, and you can maybe watch them more than once to try and, because it is a quite impenetrable text at times. I have to say, even listening and reading as along, going, I'm not really sure why they're saying any of this stuff. It's quite nice, but I don't know why any of this is happening. Okay, yeah, Lynsey, any final thoughts?
No, I was just sort of thinking if we could locate a political satire of some of some description in this and sort of relate various different bits of it to aspects of that would sort of give it a focus. But obviously I wasn't here for the opening bit of this, so I don't know how the whole works. I mean, yeah, I quite enjoyed it, but it's not immediately leaping out to me how it could be done now. Although I do like the idea of, an abandoned warehouse and people wandering around and coming in upon certain scenes all happening simultaneously. I mean, that would be something fun to do and to watch, I think. So.
Well, we build a hive and everyone's dressed as bees. I mean, what's not to like?
Exactly. I know.
Sponsors, get in touch now. Eric, any final thoughts?
I was gonna add to that and say sort of, whenever you wave a mobile phone at them, they just it's kind of very dire, I guess. Yeah, I don't know, it's an interesting sort of thing to read. It made me think of like a cabaret format where you've got like different things happening, different encounters. Yeah, I don't know. It's just sort of not sure what to think of it.
Oh, I quite like that, And now, ladies and gentlemen, Oberon, King of the Fairies, will give his judgment. Drum roll, please. Boom. That's nice. I mean, the thing is, the text is not very long. I mean, that's one of its great features. Is that it is, it is a one actor, potentially. It could be, with some cuts and maybe choosing some of the episodes you want to do. You could do something that's actually quite short, which doesn't test an audience's goodwill, so that you can lean into the complexity if you wish, because time will allow some options on that. Liza, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I could see, I could see this as a promenade production. I would be maybe inclined to stage it in some kind of garden, the kind of garden that has a lot of narrow passageways between hedges that you can walk along. Or I mean, my thought, I've long had I've been batting around in my head the idea of possibly writing a play about an Elizabethan company of players who are not successful, for whom like everything goes wrong, and it seems like this play would be really good to include in that play. Like they're sort of striving to get their one big break, and they're just up there looking ridiculous in bee costumes, and the audience is just like, what?
To be fair, I don't see this one getting past the first read through for a commercial company. But yeah, I really like that idea. Yes, we're gonna spend all our money on the bee costumes, and we're gonna go for broke. And yeah, come out the other side. Rachael, final thoughts?
Yeah, this one is so. I feel that even though the publishing date is known for this, the written date isn't known, and he's talking about other stuff. He's talking about contemporary events that I think would be more understandable if that date was known. I'm not sure how you would do this. I mean, you could just go for the most ridiculous bee costumes and then have people do it so seriously. Like the first half of this, I kept laughing silently in the camera, just because it's so ridiculous. There are some of those problematic elements that I think would need to be worked out, but that's going forward. But I'm not sure how you would do it super seriously anymore, because I or at least for myself, I'm not sure what the real life corresponding events are that this writer is talking about.
I've spoken longingly for animation. That I feel the full Pixar treatment is required. But that's just me. Go out and make that. You're looking for a challenge, Disney. Go on. Anyway, Leo, welcome to your first final thoughts. Any thoughts on this particular text?
Nothing really to add, but I think it's true that because we don't have much else to go on, that a sort of cabaret approach would be most fun. But it does have, although it's sort of got quite silly games going on, it does also have, I found Oberon's monologues quite beautiful as well, and there could be quite a lot of visual stuff going on there. But otherwise, that's all my final thoughts. Thank you.
Yes, you've chosen a particularly bizarre session to be joining us for the first time. So well done on navigating this text. It is not usually this complex a thing to navigate. That's it for now on the Parliament of Bees. We may or may not return to this for a second look sometime in the future. It may be a while, as it is as technically very far in our future in terms of its temporal dating. So it may be a while, and also it's about bees. So on that note, thanks to all these wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, and goodbye. You ate their flesh and drunk their blood.